Hey guys, it's Ping with Vital MX, and we're at Glen Helen Raceway today, putting together a good setting for our 22 KTM 250 SXF Factory Edition. If you've got one of these bikes, we've got some decent settings here for you that I think will help you if you get lost or not sure where to start. So let's go over it. If you didn't see our introduction video, you can go back and watch that for what's new and what we thought of the bike. And today we're just focused on trying to help get you a good starting point. So let's start with suspension. That's always the biggest thing with these. And really, I'm gonna go back to what I always kind of talk about, and that's balance. And it's really important when you have an air fork, because you can be off on your air pressure a little bit on that front end, and this thing will not work right. Whether it's too little or too much air, you're gonna hate it. So that is the downside to the air fork. The upside is, it is easy to tweak and change, and for different types of riding, and there is a lot more adjustability to it. It's lighter, so those are the upsides. I think 10.5 or 10.6 bar is what they recommend on the fork. I'm up over 11. I was at like 11.2 to get the hold up that I wanted. You know, Glen Helen's got some big downhills, some sections where you come in really hard and you're on the brakes hard. The KTM brakes are really good, so it'll throw that weight forward and really drop that fork down too deep in the stroke. I kept having that issue. I tried stiffening it with the clicker, and it's a spring rate issue or a pressure issue. So that's the big thing you need to remember with this fork, is that ride height is not affected by very much by that clicker. It's got to be adjusted with air. Think of that as your spring rate. So for me, my style of riding, I wanted it to hold up more, ride a little taller in the stroke. Remember that if you run it down low in the stroke, you're going to get a real harsh feeling, because the valve stack, as you get deeper down in, gets firmer. So if you're riding constantly down into that low part of the stroke, it's going to feel really harsh, and you're going to go, oh, I need to soften it. You'll open up clickers, compression clickers, and now you're worse. You're down further into the stroke. So always try to pay attention to that. If you're not sure, just as you come into a turn and you grab brakes, does the front end really drop down? Or if you're coming down a hill, does it feel like the front end's really diving? If it is, add some pressure. Go up 0.2 bar at a time until you feel like, okay, that feels better, or no, that's too stiff. Now I'm riding like a chopper. Once you have that height figured out, then you can go back in. And for me, I opened up the compression clicker, I think 4 clicks from stock. So I went up on air pressure and then opened up compression clickers to give me a nice plush action on the little stuff. And then again, the pressure holds me up into the right part of the stroke. That's really what that pressure is about, is getting you to sit in the right part of the stroke to where it's not way too high and locked up here, but you're not way down into that stiff valving too. So there's a sweet spot, you need to try to find it. It's gonna be different for everybody. If you are, I'm 170, vet, intermediate, expert speed. So, figure out where you are from that and then just adjust, okay? Rebound I didn't need to play with. Sometimes you can slow that down. If the front end feels really active, just a click in on that will help. But I didn't have any issues with that today. It was just more air pressure, open up the clickers a little bit. On the shock, 105 millimeters of sag, and I just opened up high and low speed, 2 clicks a piece. And the high speed, just so you know, is kind of, low speed turns into high speed compression, which can get a little confusing, but just think of high speed is gonna affect the ride height of the back. So if you open up high speed, the back end of the bike's gonna squat a little more, okay? And the low speed is more what you're gonna feel through chop and things like that. So play with those two and try to get a feel for what they do. Make a big change, go 5 clicks and go, okay, let me try that. All right, now I know what that feels like. And then you can set it back, split the difference or find where you're happy. So that was all I did for suspension, and Glen Helen's a pretty good test. Like I said, big bumps, uphills, downhills, a little bit of sand, you got a little everything. And I had it working well today, really comfortable. As far as other things go, I wanna talk a little bit about chain tension. I know this sounds ridiculous, but there's something that's on this bike that isn't quite right. Open up the airbox cover. There's a sticker in there that says your chain tension should be 55 to 58 millimeters. And that's wrong. It needs to be 65. We went through this today. I said, oh, hey, I think the chain's a little loose. The KTM guys were like, no, it needs to actually have more play. It'll look a little loose to you, but it needs to be 65 millimeters right at the back of the top chain guide to the bottom of the chain. And what happens is if you pull the shock out and pull that wheel all the way up, before it even hits the fender, if you're at 55, the chain is tight and it won't even let the wheel go up all the way. So you're gonna be binding up. That was just something they found from production to here that is a little off. But that's really, really important because you'll start stretching chains, wearing out sprockets, wearing out chain guides, and you're not going to just get the proper feel of that shot because it's going to bind up before you get that thing bottomed out. So 65 mil from the top of the swing arm, right behind the chain guide to the bottom of the chain. So very important. Try to stay on top of that. Okay, as far as all the other bells and whistles, the brakes on this thing are awesome. The clutch works great. I love that the levers adjust in and out. You know, if you've got shorter fingers, pull those things in a little bit. You don't want to be reaching for them. I tried both maps, liked the aggressive map today. We had pretty good traction. And traction control is hard to tell when you have good grip. But if you get to a slick spot, whether it's shiny wet slick or dry slick, that's a really neat tool. And I know on the 450, it's easier to feel than on the 250. Obviously, you just gonna break that rear wheel loose more easily and more often. But it still does work. I tried the quick shift. Definitely play with this. I think it's got value off the start. For me, I just couldn't get comfortable with it on the track. You know, times where I'm shifting at a jump face and I'm still a guy who will just sort of feather that clutch with my middle finger to get it to shift. So I'm doing that while it's trying to shift on its own, and I just couldn't get used to it. That could be me or whatever. Give it a try, see if you like it. But definitely play with both maps to see what you prefer. Like I said, on the 250 with good traction, I like that more aggressive map. I just feel like I can kind of get out of turns a little quicker and get going and grab gears a little sooner. So for me, I like that better. There's not a whole lot else to complain about on this bike. It comes with a gripper seat. The foot pegs are great. The grips are great. There just really isn't much else to do. I think as you focus on that suspension, you're gonna really enjoy this bike. There's not much else to adjust past that. They've really done a great job of building this thing ready to race, as they always like to say. So hope this setting will help you, get you guys headed down the right path if you're not sure, or if you get lost, go back to the base settings and work from there again using some of these suggestions. I think you guys will be really happy with this bike. I had a blast on it. Hope you enjoy yours. Thanks for watching.